Hello, I'm Will, the bad boy trainer, aka the father of the future, your co-host, and
Quaylon Thornton, and we are
Young Men of Vision. Today we're going to be talking about a lot of interesting topics. First, before we proceed on, I want to shout out the family of Trayvon Martin. You are definitely missed and not forgotten. But today we're going to really be speaking on a new hot topic called stop and frisk. And before we get into that, my co-host Quay, he's going to break down a little bit of stats of what's been going on in or around the city in reference to why the police department is highly pushing this stop and frisk campaign and want to keep it around, even though it's costing taxpayers millions of dollars. Q?
Well, stats I have here, 2011, New Yorkers were stopped by the police 685,000 times. Out of the 685,000 times, approximately 88%, which is roughly 600,000, were black. And, 605,000 were completely innocent, 88%. Meanwhile, 350,000 were black, 53%, while 220,000 were Latino, and the 61,000 were white. Now, out of these stats, this is only telling us that if 88% were black out of stop and frisk, what's really going on? And I also have a few more numbers for you. In the first 3 months of 2012, New Yorkers were stopped by the police 203,000 times. Meanwhile, 89% was black, 69,000 were Latino, which is 33%, and 18,000 were white. Now, these statistics only showing us that stop and frisk can be a means of stopping guns on our streets and removing it, but it's not the best means. We should find an alternative route as for removing the guns off our streets. If 89% of the people are innocent, is this really working? What's going on? If 50% roughly in all of these cases are black, is this a racial profiling? Like, what are their numbers and where are their means into getting into the community and finding out where the guns are and how are they going about this? Like, what is the procedure and how do they figure this out? But we want to get into stop and frisk, whether or not it works. So we asked a few of the people in the room how they feel on this topic, and do they believe it works or not?
I'm gonna take the front seat again real quick. In reference to some of the stats that my co-host was speaking about, it's kind of sad to see that with all of this searching going on amongst African American and Latino communities, there's still rapid killings going on. Case in point, the little 4-year-old that got shot in the Bronx, the 2 men that got shot at a basketball game. Like, it's bedazzling what's going on out in these streets, and stop and frisk is definitely not the solution at all. Definitely not working. Brother Shabazz, I'm glad you was able to join us again today. So on the topic of stop and frisk, we want to swing it on down to an elder in our community, extraordinary businessman and a father.
All right, well, the elder part, I disagree. In any event, all right, I'd like to, well, hello everyone. What I'd like to say, these stats that Quaylon just outlined are very alarming. However, I beg to differ somewhat in your opinion, because although, yes, 89% of the people seem to be innocent, 50%, and I'm going to these 2012 stats, 54% were black, 33% Latino, and 9% white. It appears that well, at least what's reported, the bulk of these crimes involving illegal weapons, the bulk of it seems to be happening in the black and Latino communities. So it seems that it only makes sense for the police, for the the commanders, the commanding officers, or from the mayor's office on down, whatever hierarchy or protocol they use. It only seems to make sense that they should focus more on the black and Latino communities, because like I said, that's where the bulk of this stuff is happening. So if anyone would like to respond on that.
You know, I see the angle that Brother Shabazz is coming in on, but I wanna focus on the 9% that they're not focusing on. It's clear that a lot of the guns that are reaching the inner city communities are coming either through military means, Army soldiers and stuff like that on the ports of Virginia, dishing out guns to the urban community, and it flutters down the interstate back up to New York City. So I'm thinking that, maybe we need to stop and frisk or focus our attention more so on that 9% that they're not focusing on.
Okay.
I agree in this way. A lot of the guns, from my understanding, are being sold by bodegas. and you don't hear too much about them doing time or them busting a lot of the bodegas out here that are carrying guns and selling them to our children. The second thing, the risk of stop and frisk for me is that often innocent people wind up having a record based on how they are approached. Next thing you know, they hit them with a charge. My son has had that situation where, till this day, he has marks all over his body. When he was innocent, stopped and frisked, they didn't like his tone of voice about it, and next thing you know, he was in front of his house and he got beat up and spent the night in jail, and then the judge dropped the charges. But there was still ramifications for him. He didn't work that day. He has, you know, it's traumatizing. So for me, stop and frisk also gives them the opportunity to create charges for a lot of young men that would not have charges, because they say they're resisting arrests, or they're not cooperating, or they were drugged, or I found a little bit of weed, but they're using that to beef up the amount of people that they're arresting. So they need to somehow refine it to a point where we're helping the community find the guns without assaulting the community and traumatizing the community. So we can figure that out, then we can really deal with the issue.
And I agree.
And now I gotta ask the question, do we really want to find that out as a nation? Do we really want to find out how to bring these guns off the street when, case in point, there's $17 million in taxpayer money that they're spending on this program? Allegedly now they got some new training going on. A lot of the times that people were being stopped and beaten up, they're blaming it on new recruits, saying because they don't understand the community at large, they don't really know how to deal with the confrontation that's happening. So one of Kelly's new agendas is training these police officers. I don't think it's gonna work because it's real police, but they have actors. And it's training simulation that they're doing. So it's not really reality. Right. So at the end of the day, I think that stop and frisk is needed, right, in a community, but how can we take it away from being a stereotype? It has to be some type of training going on to whereas just because a guy got on a certain garment or a straight walk or a straight attitude that we should stop and frisk him. Right. I mean, now, with that being said, what are we going to say when they start stopping and frisking our grandmothers and throwing them on the police car saying, hey, well, you know what? You said we ain't going to be stereotypical here, so everybody got to be. So at what point will we draw the line? You know what I mean? When does stop and frisk go too far? And when do we get away with it? And when do we demand at Borough Hall, City Hall, any of these politician offices, when do we demand that these $17 million that y'all spending in all these programs, they got to go to programs that work? And programs that work is mentoring programs. Programs that work is job readiness programs. So these are the type of things that we got to start getting into as a community, or we're going to have more Trayvon Martins. We're going to have more 4-year-old boys getting shot. And we're going to have a lot more of our family men getting incarcerated for a charge that we really couldn't fight, because, quite frankly, you need a lawyer to fight a lot of these cases when they're posed against you against NYPD. Last time I checked, a lot of us don't have resources. So we stuck with paralegals, and they'll throw us under the bridge every time. You have something you want to say?
I have a question. I think part of the reasons why the stop and frisk and police are able to be bullies is because of the fact that our community does not police their own community, and that we don't step up. We won't tell who is hurting the community. We won't say he had a gun, he shot my brother, I saw him. We don't do that. We go and hide, and so therefore that gives them the opportunity to create these programs, because we're not stepping up as a community and policing our community and being responsible for the things that happen.
Excellent point. That leads us. You have something to talk
something
about?
like that. That's hard to for youth. That's hard for youth because they got a whole bunch of kids around them. Something like, I don't snitch on him. Don't matter what he did. Don't matter none of that. Because then, what you telling that person, you gotta go back home. Number one. But when you go back home, he's gonna tell all his friends that you done snitched on him, and all of them is gonna be against you. So it's not just one person. So it's bigger than just going into the cops and telling them, like, I know he had the gun and all that, because then it gets. It's just too big, too much.
So that transcends so perfectly into our next topic that we wanted to touch on. We're not done with the stop and frisk yet, but
I know we're not. Okay, so then you know what? I'll wait because when we go into the snitching, because I do
that's what he was about to get into, the snitching, because that actually, like I said, we already agreed, everybody in here, that stop and frisk is a tactic that may can work, but it needs a whole lot of revamping for it to work. Now that leads us to us holding ourselves accountable and policing ourselves. So it comes to the question: when is snitching legally to do?
Time out. I just wanted to go back to the stop and frisk. I wanted to say that Will, you and this is Miss Ina Norris from Inner Woman Productions. That's her production company. You both made a valid point in terms of it being a departmental issue about how the police us. And what's happening is because these guys are not properly trained, they're coming at us with aggression. You know, and then, you know, of course, you know, as a black man, I would feel slighted if I'm driving, or not if I'm driving, let's say if I'm walking to the store to go buy a can of soda or something, and I have on all black, and they look at me, oh wow, you know, and it just happens to be 11:30 at night. What is he doing out here? And they throw me up against the wall. Yes, I will offer some resistance, but then, I don't know, I won't offer any resistance. I would feel right about that. But then again, at the same time, right, if I'm not carrying a weapon and I'm not out to hurt anybody, why should, what I'm saying, why should I get angry if what they're doing, you understand, is trying to, you know, help out the community by taking a weapon off the street or making sure that I'm not someone who's not out there looking to hurt or rob someone. So the issue is, I mean personally, I don't mind it if they know how to approach me in the correct manner. You understand?
I mean, but how do you approach someone in the correct manner when legally you have the person didn't do anything wrong?
Well, that I'm not 100% sure. That I don't have the answer to. That's still a work in progress. And that's something that I guess at the departmental level, I guess the psychologists or the community at large, some of our community leaders, they all have to sit down and figure out what is the best way to approach an individual and say, excuse me, sir, we just want to make sure that you're clean or you don't have any weapons, anything, and a quick pat of frisk, whatever it is, and go on your way.
Down, but now they have cops actually giving you rabbit hits. You're not supposed to, they're supposed to just pat you down just like that and make sure there's no, like, say you got like a gun, you're going to feel if you pass it down. Right. That was the original protocol for the whole thing. Like, when they approach you, it's off suspicion. Now they doing it off hunches, like, oh, he got that on, so let me just go right.
And they're really probably looking for something else in the course of the pat down. So see, that's a very good point too. Because
right here is where you're going to keep everything in your pocket. So you're like, digging in your whole pocket, or you're going to find something. You're going to find something.
Right. You can have, you know.
I got to play devil advocate right here, okay? When we are talking about gangsters or people who are not following the law, you're going to cheat a lot of stuff because you're trying not to get caught. You see what I'm saying? So the guy who really want to commit a murder or the guy who really wants to do ill will in the community is always going to get away because he's a watcher before he reacts. So it's always going to be the sheep versus the wolf type of mentality going on. So stop and frisk in a nutshell would never work because there's no way for you to just stop someone minding their business in a hot zone. Remember, these is hot zones where murders is going on and drug dealers and rapists and burglaries is going on. So everyone's a suspect at that particular point. So to stop and frisk, it doesn't lie there. It lies back into the development of our children.
I really have, I just think it's too much because it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy with our children being frisked at school, being frisked before they even turn 12. This is, to me, violating them. They cannot feel like a free citizen. And the numbers tell them. The story is that 88% are innocent, then you're not really targeting the right people. So there's something flawed, very flawed in the procedure that 88% are innocent, and you're not catching so-called bad guy, and you're making a whole group of people feel less than an American citizen. They're not really a citizen. They can be stopped and frisked once a week, and there are people who are constantly stopped and frisked just because of the way they look. So it's a violation. Something has to change. Either they throw the whole program out because how do you spend this amount of money and it's not working, and start again and try to develop something that is really effective because it's not working.
I believe more social programs would be the answer because gun violence really stems from, as you said, children, and unless the children grow up believing that is something that is acceptable to do carry a weapon, to run the streets, to participate in gang violence. And that's the reason in which why they feel they can do those things. So education is ultimately the key as for completely clearing out and annihilating the whole gun violence and stop and frisk wouldn't be necessary, because as you said, 88% is clearly showing that it's not working. That's too high of a number. That's almost 9/10 of 100. So that's too high of a number to say that this program is potential or has potential. It doesn't have potential, in my opinion. So I feel as if we should definitely, the root of the problem is education.
You guys are making me eat my words.
He said something that was really interesting. He said that if I snitch, I'll go back into the community, and then my friends, whatever, and that tells me that young people don't feel protected by adults. Okay, because if I don't have anywhere to turn to, and I have to go to the police, and then there's a group of people going to say he went to the police, that means I had no one in between. And I think the mentorship part of it and adults standing up, it's not a program, to me, it's a way of life. We should be there for young people, and we're not actually fulfilling that. We're not, because this would not be an issue.
And there you go. You heard it here from Young Men of Vision. This is what we felt about stop and frisk. We want to know what you guys feel about stop and frisk. We'll be back.
All right, we're back here in Duke's Barbershop, and we have a question for everyone. When does snitching go out the window? And are we still living by this old classic street code? But first, before we get into the other guests that we have, or even Rose speaking, I would like to, Amir here to touch on this topic. So Amir, how do you feel about snitching? And do you believe it's still prevalent on our streets, in our communities?
Snitching is prevalent in the streets, because everyone follows the code, don't snitch, and no one wants to be known in the community as a snitch, because when you get looked at a certain way, people will want to kill you for snitching. Not for snitching is appropriate in some cases. If it's a gang-related murder, or like drug-related murder, I don't think snitching is necessary, because that's what the person who got killed got themselves into. But if an innocent person gets killed, then I feel snitching is.
How do you feel about it too?
To go off what he said, I'm gonna take it to YBs and YGs. The reason their whole empire broke is because of snitching. So say the main person snitched on somebody else, and that person got killed because that person snitched on that other person. So it's if it's gang related, snitching is definitely not the right way to go. You can go to the cops, but it's not smart. So and say an innocent person got killed, snitching is better because I don't want to call it snitching. Owning up to what happened is better than snitching, because if an innocent person get killed, say it's your little sister or something, you're gonna want to tell police yo, my little sister got killed, I know who did it, That's not snitching. That's just knowing what happened and you telling people what happened. Snitching in game terms is basically that, but that's not cool.
All right, so I see you brought it to your own home now, as for family.
Yeah.
But what if that was, not only what if that was you, but just in general, snitching would somewhat bring up our community, it would remove the criminals off the streets and remove the situation. And I understand the social aspect of maybe you'll get hurt in the process of bringing that culprit in, but at the same time, should we throw this out the window? When do we get rid of this?
When it's more like Amir said, when you didn't bring it on yourself, that's when you can actually play the innocent role. Okay, this is what happened, and that person violated me, or that person violated somebody else that I know. But if you brought yourself in that situation and you try to snitch your way out, that's not cool.
Alright. Well, how do you guys feel? What about you guys?
I understand. I agree with. I'm always on the fence with a lot of things. All right. First of all, I want to point this out. I grew up in the '70s, and when we were either taught or told about the whole snitching thing, because at some point somebody's going to have to define exactly what snitching is. But one of the reasons why they came up with the term, snitches get stitches and stuff like that, it was really because the community didn't trust the police. It really wasn't about each other. You understand? It was, listen, and in those days, the communities, they kind of policed themselves. If there was something going on, we got it. We're not going to let the police handle it, because all they're going to do is come in here and mess things up first. Now, in 2012 or whatever, this new thing that these young, I don't want to say you young people, but some of the young people are doing, I probably would feel more comfortable terming it selective snitching. Because you have, okay, let's say if you have two young guys that commit a crime, right? If let's say if it's something, they assaulted a young lady or they robbed the store, immediately as soon as one of the guys get into the precinct, they're telling. But then, if they're out shooting guns and, like Will pointed out, a 4-year-old kid gets shot, or like the example that I was giving with Trey Franklin, they've gotten senselessly murdered. No one's coming forward. You know, the police have very little or no leads. They've got like slang names and stuff like that. You know, and it's ridiculous. So that, to me, that's selective. So what really, to you guys, what really is snitching? Because I don't know anymore.
The term you use is basically what I was trying to get at. So
The selective snitching?
Basically what I'm trying to get at.
I don't agree with that at all. I believe just like stop and frisk is not working, the no snitching is not working, the gangs are not working.
We have a comment, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch base with everything that everybody's saying is exactly on point, but it's a big indoctrination period, I believe, from let's go 81 up to like 90, when the crack epidemic hit New York City, where you had kids become parents and parents become kids, and you know everything kind of like flipped, and you know it's like now you got kids that's being parents before time. You got them taking care of the grandparents and the parents and so forth and so on, and now you're saying, well, what happened to the parents? The parents is gone. It's the kids that's taking care of the parents now because of the crack. And this is where a lot of things became scrutiny, you know, it's just messed up.
And that makes sense.
That makes total sense. We've been speaking a lot. I'm gonna pretty much, how could I say this, snapshot everything for a lot of viewers that might just be joining us. We spoke earlier about stop and frisk. Then that led us into snitching. When is it, you know, applicable, and when is it, you know, non-applicable? And now we're gonna go on to the last topic of the day, senseless shootings at the hands of our youth. Again, what that means, I just got armed with an AK-47. My cousin brought it up from down south. I'm excited. This dude, I've been beefing with him anyway. He repped that blue, I repped that red. I don't even know what that means, but I'm gonna take his head off. When is it enough? How do you get these young men to start thinking different? How do you get these young men to start putting down the guns and picking up the gloves, so to speak, and being a man and saying, hey, I don't like you for whatever the reasons is. You put blood in my mouth, I put a knot on your forehead, but we still living. And I'm gonna put it to Amir. Like, what do we do? What are some solutions to young men between the ages of 10 years old up to 25 years old? How can we rectify a situation and make our communities a little bit more safer so we don't need other authorities coming in here policing ourselves? What are some solutions, brother?
Well, I say that the adults of the community should like coach kids and make sure they don't take a route of violence and crimes. Go out to the park, see what kids are doing, make sure they ain't fighting, make sure they ain't shooting.
If there was one thing that you could, one solution you could leave with us before you go and study abroad, what would it be for us to keep our communities a little bit more safe, or to give us a little more hope?
I would say unity. Everyone should be working together instead of working against each other in the community. Because like in communities now with violence, it's like everyone's out for self and would do anything to bring anyone else down to bring themselves up. So people should stop being selfish.
My name is Michael.
And Mike, what do you think that we can do? You know, not only as adults, but the people a little bit more older than you, including yourself. What kind of solutions would you think we can bring to the table that'll make our communities more safer, for you to play in, for you to grow in, for you to excel in? And what could I do and your dad do and to make life a little bit better for you in the future? Like, not tomorrow, but to make sure when you're 15 and 16, you don't really have to worry about ducking because somebody's shooting, or, you know, you could go to school and don't have to worry about getting jumped because you're smarter, you're more intelligent than a couple of your peers. What kind of things could I do to help assist that?
I think you can get a job and get off your back and stop being lazy.
So that's what he's saying. He's saying that more black men need to get off of their behinds and start helping out moms so it ain't too many single parent households.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, not only will you have 2 eyes on you, or 6 if she wear glasses, but you'll have 4 to 6 eyes on you. That'll make your community a little bit more better. So guys, step up, talking to myself, and